Good afternoon, everyone. All right, I'm going to try to do as quick as I can. I'll review this morning's options trades. Yesterday I had phenomenal price action, made a ton of money yesterday morning, and today I did not. Today was actually a red day. Price action was atrocious. I was red by one full, slightly than larger size um, options trade, like normal size trade. Now, I had high hopes for this morning, and the mornings have been very choppy leading up to FOMC. And then I theorized that after FOMC, the mornings would start being a bit more predictable, at least for the way I trade. I was correct. Yesterday was beautiful price action. Had 100% accuracy yesterday morning. All of my trades went over 100% gains before I sold. Very easy morning to make money. And, that kind of confirmed my hypothesis. And going into this morning, I was willing to be a little bit more aggressive with my trading because of that, right? Because typically, the more I trade, the more money I make. However, that does pretty much always lower the win rate a little bit, but it doesn't matter to me because it's more money made, right? More trades are placed, but if the market's crappy, then that's more money lost. So I didn't expect this morning to be pretty crappy, but this is how it looked this morning. Notice we still have that perfect double top on ES. This is pretty much where all my biases is right now. I am very bullish for all-time highs on ES. It's not too far away. We've invalidated majority of the drop. NQ is stronger than ES, and we have some significant pivots here and then here. So I'm leaning bullish this morning. I'm hoping that we kind of drop a little bit at market open so I get a chance to enter. But here's how the market opens. And as you can see, NQ is very strong. ES is very weak. This is looking perfect for an NQ supply break and then all-time high break. Looking perfect. If this selling wick invalidates, I'm going to hop in. Well, I hopped in at the last 10 seconds of this candle, right when it hit like 11 seconds, I entered. And the candle was a nice green candle. Looked beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Now, I only entered half size because the ES is in a sharp downtrend and it's very close to market open. Anything can happen. And I filled these at, I believe it was 80 something cents, 85 cents. Let me check real quick. 83 cents. Immediately when I filled, this candle dumped into a red candle. Immediately. Like, I didn't even have, between the time I entered this trade and brought my finger down to hit enter on my alert channel, it dumped to like 65 cents. So all you guys got a way better average than me. But luckily, I am half size. And I am planning on averaging down at this at NQ demand. So that's what I'm looking for. But my stop loss is fairly hard. It's going to be roughly here if the demand breaks. Or gets close to breaking, I should say. I take my average down here. Now I filled my average down at 55 cents. That brings my average down to 69 cents. A little bit more doable. We're working with roughly a 1.7 risk to reward. NQ still seems a lot stronger than ES. I just need ES to stop going straight down because that is an issue. Very similar to yesterday's morning. And we bounced, or I thought we bounced. Yeah, we bounced a little bit. Got pretty close to break even, but like I'm gonna have to honor my stop losses. I can't really bag hold this trade. I'm down a lot more than you guys are because of my very unlucky entry. So on this candle, on this red candle, I did fill my stop loss. I filled it at 47 cents for minus 31% normal size position. Unfortunately, I couldn't hold. And that's just a matter of luck. If I waited one more second to fill the trade, which there's no reason why I should have. I mean, it was within my rules to enter when I did. I mean, we're in the last 10 seconds of the candle, I believe. But if I entered just 1 second later on this trade, I wouldn't have got in because that selling wick would have printed. And now I'd be waiting for the selling wick to invalidate. So started off the day on a very unlucky note. There's not really much I can do. I even right now, I said in my channel, I'm stopping out because I have to honor my stop losses, perfect psychology above all else. But I'm pretty bullish for this to come back up. And I think I'm going to end up re-entering calls, but ideally, that doesn't happen until we sweep the bottom of this demand. Because according to liquidity momentum, more times than not, we invalidate a majority of a move, it's going to push to the nearest point of liquidity. In this case, it's this pivot here at the bottom of this demand. Sure enough, right after I sell, and I held out for a while, right? Like, I held out for a pretty long while. I think my average was something like right here, I don't know. I held out for a while, as long as I could, until I just couldn't. And sure enough, right after I stopped out, it rocketed right back up. So that was not fun. Not only did I barely get hornswoggled into the trade, but then it perfectly swept my stop loss and bounced right away. And again, that's just bad luck. There's not much you can do, right? Well, I end up I actually re-enter calls right at the start of the next candle. If the next candle opens bullish, I re-entered. And I did. And immediately it was in my favor until it was not. I filled roughly like something like this. So I was up a decent amount at the beginning. But then it wasn't up anymore. In fact, I was a little red, but I filled the calls at 56 cents. A little bit more than half size, but still willing to add second half. Personally, I'll add if we pull back and invalidate that pullback, or if we invalidate the selling wick. Pretty much the same trade that I just stopped out of. And if this pullback invalidates, I'm in. I think it's on this candle. Yeah. So, funny story, you can go on my channel. Pretty much right when this candle opened, it was a small green candle. Okay. It was like right here. Now, this was very lucky. And I mean, this just goes to show for every unlucky event, there's an equal and opposite. For every unlucky event, there's an equal and opposite lucky event on the horizon. Most people just don't experience getting lucky. They only experience getting unlucky because they're too busy blowing their accounts, not accepting the fact that they're just unlucky and they can't move on from it. Not me, though. So I took my ad, and it was actually slight average down. I already had it fully typed in my channel. I knew the price I was about to fill at. I had filled my ad at 52 cents, dropped my average to 54 cents. Typed in my channel, because that's what I do. I type the alert in my channel, then I fill it, and then hit enter, right, to send the alert. So there's less than a 1 second delay. There's like a 2 second delay with my alerts. Not even. It's very real time. Well, I filled my ad, and literally between the time that I clicked limit enter and brought my finger over to my keyboard and hit enter on Discord, this massive explosion happened. So very lucky. Just like this trade, how I was very unlucky right as I filled, it dumped. Right after I filled this trade, it pumped really hard. So this was really nice. And this actually gave me, my PT was right here. I did keep a very small runner position that I did stop out of here soon. But that got me 59% gains. Now I'm decent, solid green on the day. I was a little bit bigger than full size on this trade. It was like 1.2 maybe, something like that. So I'm decent green on the day now. Pretty decent green on the day. But keep in mind, while that is a bearish liquidity sweep on NQ, and we did sweep all-time highs, I'm still bullish on ES to break this perfect double top up here. So that's where my bias is at. And right now, this looks like a cup and handle. So I'm leaning very bullish here. Very, very bullish here. Very bullish here for not only new high day on ES, but all-time highs. So pretty much what I was thinking is price action still looks okay. It's pretty choppy, at least at first in the morning. But looking back on price action, this trade really should have never happened. It was just really unlucky that candle that I filled right before that candle dumped. If that candle would have done that half a second sooner, or I filled half a second later, I would not have entered that first trade, and I'd be 1-0 on the day. So in my mind, price action's fine this morning, and it was just, an unlucky mistake that that caused that first loss, which happens from time to time, at least maybe once a week or once every other week. So with that being said, I'm not really feeling like I need to be conservative with my trading. I'm feeling rather aggressive because my sentiment was 100% correct. So I'm like, okay, if we start pulling back, I'm very bullish for a cup and handle the form on ES. And I'd like to scale into a trade a little bit early, a little bit risky, but very small size and kind of scale in. So that's kind of my plan at the moment. And we start pulling back. And we start bouncing. Still trying to bounce. And this is pretty okay. Looking back on it, again, it was fairly aggressive. But I entered really tiny size on QQQ with plans to scale in. My average contract size on QQQ is give or take 40 contracts. I filled 6. So like, do the math, I don't know. 8 would be 20% of a normal position size. So I'm really small. And I'm planning on averaging up if we get in up here, or if we bullishly sweep, averaging down. That's kind of what I'm looking for at the moment. Of course, right after I filled, it dumped, but then it popped back up. So, whatever. And then we swept the lower low. I didn't actually add anything, believe it or not. I didn't want to. ES wasn't really looking like a cup and handle anymore. So I personally only wanted to add if we invalidated this recent leg here. This leg down, then I'll add. But right now it's too risky, and I don't want to give up my green day on a trade that's very aggressive. Because maybe I'm wrong, and this is what I'm thinking about. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe this isn't actually a great price action day, and I actually just got lucky with this run. Little did I know that would be foreshadowing. But that's kind of what I'm thinking at the moment. And we do end up shooting up. Let me see. And it was on this candle here that I'm like, you know, I like this chopping down. This is bullish, but you know, ES is stronger than NQ here. ES looks stronger than NQ here. Instead of adding QQQ calls, I'm going to add SPX calls. Again, this is very light. So I was in roughly 15% of my, we'll just round up, 20% of my average position size on NQ. And ES, I was in 2 contracts. So between both of these trades, I was in less than half of my usual size. But unfortunately, it just dumped, and I had to stop out. Here. Nope, not here. Here. Right when this buying wick... No, it was right here. I had to stop out. Now, I didn't really want to. But, you know, this was kind of looking like a bull flag for a little bit, and now it does not. And I stopped out, took a loss. Very small loss. I'm still green on the day. I'm green by like 110% trade. Because my sizing was super small. But now, keep in mind, NQ already missed this pivot down here, and we've invalidated a majority of the move. Now I'm actually bearish for this to happen. So, give me one second. I'm like catching up in my channel. Did I actually stop out on this candle? Or was it the candle before? No, it was this candle. So I stopped out, took a loss, whatever. I'm still very light green on the day. Maybe I'm not going to get it. Now I'm leaning bearish for the NQ low of day. Well, you're going to see a theme here. I filled this trade in the last 5 seconds of the candle. Literally the last 5 seconds of the candle. Right after I get in, it puts in a massive buying wick. Now, I filled this QQQ put trade half size. Okay. I filled it only half size, and the reason why is because what pattern do I see here? I see a potential head and shoulders. So I totally think that this could bounce. before we end up dropping. And if it does bounce in a fairly bearish fashion, then I'd like to be able to average down, bring my position up to my normal size, and take just a solid bet for the head and shoulders to play out through demand. That's what I'm looking for. But I entered with half size, and right before I entered, unfortunately, um, or sorry, not right before, right after I entered, it put in this huge buying wick, and sure enough, it reversed. Now, I was very close to wanting to average down here, but you see an issue. ES is still chopping down in a fairly bullish fashion. I need this to pull back to roughly here, and I will average down. Because I'm not willing to stop at. It still looks like a head and shoulders. It still looks okay. But then this candle happened. This is actually bullish consolidation on NQ. NQ started flipping strong here, and right when the next candle opened green, not only did I have to stop out, but I was triggered in back into calls. So I stopped out early into this candle for a half size loss, and now I'm very slightly red on the day, but like just under break even, because that was another half size loss. So one full size loss and then two little half size losses, and pretty much my progress is reset. But NQ is a lot stronger than ES, and I'm still bullish overall. Like, that sentiment never really went away. It just temporarily invalidated with this drop, but now I kind of have to be in. NQ looks beautiful at the moment. I do end up filling calls on this candle. And I wasn't quite full size, but I filled close to full size. And the reason why I wasn't quite full size is because I thought there was a decent chance that we put in this inverse head and shoulders, as you can see here. But I was heavier than half size in this. I think it was like 2/3 or something like that. But I filled it. You know, we'll see what happens. And we dump. And I stopped out. Right into this candle. Was it? It was at the first half of this candle right here. I stopped out right at the beginning of this candle. So I stopped out. It was pretty unfortunate. I don't remember the percent that I stopped out for. I think it was like another minus 35% loss or something. So that pushed me mild, decent red on the day. Red by like one kind of large green trade. And I stopped because I'm past the first hour, stopped trading options. And it is annoying because I was already in puts and I already anticipated a potential head and shoulders, but it came too far up with too much momentum to where now the inverse head and shoulders is a bit more likely. It did just enough to stop me out of this trade. Now I did end up trading futures, and my futures trade was short, and it did end up getting to my PTs, and I had a 100% win rate on futures today for the second and third hour, first time in a while. But the first hour was rough. Pretty much the first hour was 100% chop, except this right here. I had 4 candles that weren't choppy, and of course I was in calls for it. But this is choppy. This is choppy. Like, this is all just compression. I only got one sweep today. This pivot missed. This pivot missed. This demand didn't hit down here. So there wasn't much to be done. Well, but today, honestly, the options trading was pretty aggravating for a couple of things. Let's just count all the unlucky things that maybe one or two of them could have been preventable if I trade a lot more conservative. But like I said, I didn't think I needed to trade conservative today after yesterday's price action. So like I said in my channel, I'm going to try to do my best to trade as conservative as possible until I get 3 mornings in a row with solid, decisive price action. Until that happens, I'm just going to trade conservative for a bit because that yesterday morning was the only very solid, very good price action morning of this entire week. One this week. FOMC was rough. Day before FOMC was rough. Monday was fairly rough as well. You know, it was not a fun time this week. One day this week, and I think maybe 2 days last week. So, like I said, I'm going to trade conservative until I get 3 days in a row. But here's all the unlucky things that happened to me. A millisecond, literally like a few, like not even half of a second after I filled this trade, it dumped. If the timing was any better, I would have avoided this. It dumped just far enough to perfectly sweep my stop loss here. So this entire loss, super unlucky. Not only was this, I mean, you know, I fill and it dumps. This trade wasn't really unlucky. It is what it is. And then this trade right here, again, less than half a second after I filled my puts. I would never fill puts on a candle that looks like this, especially with the volume spike that's here and the size of the buying wick. Half a second after I filled my, less than half a second I filled my puts, shot right up. Not only did it shoot up, but it shot up just enough to stop me out of my puts. And this candle also had just enough momentum. You know, I'm pretty sure this even broke the 61.8 here. Yeah, went way over the 61.8 with this wick. And that was a green candle at one point in time. Not only did it stop me out, just bullish enough to stop me out of my puts, even though I anticipated a potential head and shoulders. But it was bullish enough to trigger me into calls here as well before turning right back down and doing what I thought it did. And at the end of the day, it did end up, ES did end up taking out all-time highs. Of course, I anticipated this all-time highs break, and it's obvious because the perfect double top and some other things. I strongly anticipated these all-time highs for the last 2 days, today and yesterday. And of course, it just so happens to break when I can't trade it. So it's just a lot of unluckiness this morning, but you know, it's going to happen when I get price action, when I get a very choppy market open. And then, of course, futures is great because the only chop that happens is bearish consolidation here almost. And futures was super easy to trade. Really, for the rest of the day, it kind of was. I mean, even this chop here, it's bullish consolidation. It went the way it's supposed to go. But these opens, man, have not been a fun time lately. So, like I said, I'm just going to trade conservative moving forward until I get 3 mornings in a row of solid, predictable price action. And then I'll return back to a little bit more aggressive and higher trade counts. But, all right. Does anyone have any questions regarding the options trades that I took this morning? I did 0 and 6. Demi says, I did 0 and 6 for the first hour, but rules were followed. Yeah, it's rough. I got one trade. And it was pretty lucky. All right, sweet. No more questions? Well, I'll see you guys later for the futures review. If you guys need anything, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, congrats if you guys are green. Hopefully next week is a lot better than this week. But like I said, gonna play a little bit safer, gonna trade conservative, and just lock in some solid days next week. All right, I will see you guys later. I'll let you guys know when this is posted on YouTube.